Welcome to the Publio podcast, Follow Your North Star. I'm Keith Reynolds, founder and CEO of Publio. This show is for CEOs, entrepreneurs, business owners, and managers who want to use media to grow their business and surround it with inbound marketing to fill their pipeline of prospects. And Publio is a consulting, training, and development and media company. And not only, besides this podcast, we not only have this, we also have a workshop that we run online and in person. And we have done for you turnkey consulting to help companies stand up their content strategy. I'm here with Jesse Glassberg, our inimitable producer. Welcome, Jesse. Always good to see you.
You too, Keith. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I heard you went biking this weekend.
Yeah. I took a ride on the Duchess Rail Trail. I don't know if a lot of people know it, but they built it about 5 or 6 years ago. It runs from Hopewell Junction in East Fishkill, New York, up to New Paltz. Runs all along the Hudson River. There's a beautiful walking bridge that they built from an old train bridge a few years ago. Absolutely amazing.
I have not been there, but my sister used to live up that way and went biking on that a lot.
Oh, yeah. It's the best thing they made for that area in my lifetime.
That's cool. So, well, we got a great show today. We're going to be talking to John Winkel, the CEO of the Stamford Partnership. It's a nonprofit that convenes a lot of the various community elements in Stamford, Connecticut and greater Stamford to help drive great things in the area that we live. And John and I have worked together for quite some time. We've been producing inbound marketing programs for companies and doing SEO work. And it was a really fascinating interview, huh?
Yeah, no, John, it's just he's impressive at being such a hands-on CEO. He rolls up his sleeves, kind of takes on the tasks, no matter how menial, just in order to make sure everything gets done. And obviously, you can tell it's from years of experience, especially with inbound marketing. And I think we learned a ton about how it can help the podcast, how it can help Publio, and he's just a fascinating guy all around.
He really is. It's with all the programs that he manages and all the responsibilities he has in terms of managing relationships, but when push comes to shove, he is ready and willing to roll up his sleeves, or he'll just come in and, he sees a piece of media and he has an insight about it. It's what I've always loved about working with him on this stuff. But, let's not talk about it. Let's talk to him.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you on the other side. John, welcome. We go back quite a while. It's great to have you on our show.
Thanks, Keith. Excited to be here. It's overdue probably, and I'm sure it'll be a great conversation today.
Absolutely. So we've done a few of these podcasts with guests, and we're finally interviewing each other. I have a feeling this is going to be two-way here. So what we like to do is talk about why media is important to senior executives and CEOs in particular. Media is a way to help you achieve your goals, and that's what we do here. And you and I've worked a lot together, and we've done a lot of media together. So welcome, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, thanks, Keith, for having me again. I think I'll keep it on a media sort of string here. I could go further back, but I think the arc of this story starts when I was working at Kodak. I started as a manager of business development. That was sales and marketing and partnerships role. Ended up as a director before I left. And Keith and I's story starts there as well. Well, before that, but really that's where it blossoms. And then after that, I started an agency. So I had that perspective. So it started with corporate, and then I did digital marketing and marketing for large companies through Square Wheel Group. That I was one of the first folks in there. And then since then, I started a major innovation festival, of which marketing and communications was the key thing that made it successful. And now work here at the partnership. Been on the job for about 2 years here as CEO, and I try to keep my startup genes, on and firing, and treat the partnership the same way as a startup. And so media and marketing and communications is always on my mind.
Yeah, and that festival had to go online and be all media last year.
That's right. Fun with COVID, or misery with COVID. Depends how you want to look at it. But it was 100% digital media, and my brain always goes to a promotional sort of lens of who's your audience, how big is your audience, how engaged are they, what are they willing to either engage with or share or help bring in new folks. And so that's been the key underpinning idea and tactic for really throughout the whole arc.
So why do you like to use digital media? What is it that you see as a strategic advantage for the kind of things that you do? Tell us like what you see what value you see in it.
Well, I mean, you can be the smartest or most successful person or organization in the world, but if nobody knows it, it didn't happen. The sort of collapsed version of that for the digital media era is Pixar. It didn't happen, right? So, like it's your story as a person or a brand has to be out there to be relevant and to resonate for your business or your company. For whatever ends you choose to employ it towards. And so, that's how I look at it. It's the key component to, especially if you're focused on fast growth, hyper growth, startup DNA type of growth hacking tactics and strategies. And your media game and your social media game, digital media, all of that needs to be, really tight and thoughtful. And, it can seem, I think on the front end, very, very fresh and fun and engaging, but there's a lot of planning and work, as that goes into designing that experience. And so, that's the way, I look at it, and we look at it, third from concept to design to execution. And, that's sort of my perspective for today, as far as, how I'm thinking about it, how I'm looking at it.
Yeah. So I liked how you said design the experience. That's really thinking about all the media touch points and how you motivate people to become your audience, right?
Absolutely right. I mean, the standard, this becomes like the personal opinion category, everything has to be perfect in order for everything to be good or good enough, when it comes out, right? Because nothing is ever truly flawless, and you should always be experimenting anyway. But, like if you start with a super standard, and when you see someone put a post on, a social media platform about your company, or they share a podcast, like for instance, if you're listening to this, you should share this podcast, for example. Like if they hear about it and they land on your website and it's not compelling, or it's not optimized, or if it is, and then they subscribe because they're still feeling engaged, and then your follow-ups are infrequent or poorly designed or not engaging, then there's a drop-off there. And then if they're in a conversation with you and your promotional or pitch materials or whatever you have, right? So it goes from beginning to end, and you have to be thinking about every step along the way, always, and be creative and experimental on each of those steps, as I was saying before. So, that's generally, how I'm thinking, and it's the common thread is everything has to be great. I mean, that's where you have to start, and then it's whack-a-mole or bug squashing, from there on out.
Right. Yeah, I think tech executives um, if you've come up through the industry, you know where to go and hack the code. And, you know, when the end-to-end process gets stuck, you got to unstick it and know where to go look. How do you balance delegating to the team and managing all the other priorities that you have? And have you learned, you know, have you progressed the more you've taken on the role of CEO? Are you doing less? And like, what kind of management approach do you take to it?
I mean, media is a comfort zone for me, so I spend a lot of time on that particular function. Certainly, you know, always hiring and growing, and we have great people on the team at the partnership. You know, we have a great partner in our media communications as well. You know, Publio, and so you know, it's I fit that description you just said, where you know, I was a digital media producer, and I still keep those skills very fresh. So I'll be quick to jump in and write copy. I'll be quick to go and do a page in WordPress. You know, sometimes it's just easier and faster to just jump in and get your hands dirty. And that is the yin and yang of leadership and executive management. You know, when you need to jump in and when you should be hands off or you know, directive. So there's no easy answer on that. As the partnership grows, you know, I spend more time in leadership and management and less time, you know, as an individual producer. But I'll never get away from that because I love doing it. And so, you know, at a minimum, you know, I'll always be writing and doing stuff like this.
You have a very creative mind, and it drives your leadership style as well.
Oh, thank you.
So one of the things I see you do, and it's, you know, part of our process as well, and I mean, us growing up together at this for the last umpty years is we kind of have shorthand, but I know a lot of the programs that you run, you come up with, or your team comes up with the name, and you really pay attention to the brand and elevate something to that North Star that we talk about. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on branding and having that single idea.
Well, it makes me really feel happy and warm and fuzzy that you said that, because I always feel like it could be done better. You know, like, I guess I'll give actually the negative example first. So like Stanford Innovation Week, like when we started that, you know, the name had some sort of pop to it that drew people in. It said like it was about place and innovation, and you know, it's a whole week, and like we've got something to celebrate and get engaged with here. Then, you know, we had sort of early success, and I think probably more success than we forecasted. You know, is much faster than we forecasted it, and then it became like, okay, well, Innovation Week is great. What about the other 51 weeks of the year? And so now, you know, we've been trying to catch up for the last 2 years and say, okay, how do we keep that core brand promise of like this really poppin' week going, while still trying to balance it with keeping an audience engaged for the rest of the year. So and that, you know, we still haven't today, I think, got to the end point of where we need to get to on that, but we're getting close. You know, when we think about creating brands and sub brands and program names, some of it is you just have the light bulb moment, you know, the shower thought, you know, thing where you're like, oh yeah, that's it. And that's happened, you know, a bunch. You know, Tech Hub, you know, being one of those. You know, sometimes it takes a whole, you know, village and surveys and, you know, socializing it with multiple people and getting feedback. You fall in love with a name, and then someone says like, oh, that's easy to confuse with this, right? And then you Google it and you're like, oh God, that's horrible.
Yeah.
You know, like that's in the garbage. Let's start all over again.
Right.
So it, you know, yeah, it follows many different paths, some short and very, very easy, and some the long and hilly and rocky and all of that. So
and yet when you find it, it's like magic, right? It's like you struck gold.
Oh, of course. I mean, when we named the tech conference component of Innovation Week, we use the fast forward name, which is capital F, little AST, capital FWD, and like it took us a little bit to get to that. And the ironic thing was the logo for Innovation Week had the fast forward thing in there, credit to Holly Danger who designed that. You know, like it was there in front of us the whole time. And then when you see like, oh, genius, of course, fast forward, accelerating, part of our logo, you know, part of it, it has action built into the name and the idea. So
and the FWD has the fast forward that you'd have on a cassette or DVD.
That's right.
DVR, right?
Yeah.
So then those ideas, when it's perfect, that it really all starts to work together, and that serves to convey the idea as an on-ramp for our audience.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, that was a fun one. You remember, actually, Keith, we go back to the you know, the beginning is when we named you know, Chief Packaging Officer.com, which came out of Kodak, which was the first time that I worked with Keith professionally. You know, we spent days on a whiteboard talking about all the different things that it could be named. And that was one where I was wrong, right? And I'm happy to be wrong. Like that wasn't the name that I prefer. I don't even remember actually anymore.
If I remember, we came up with the packagist and the attorneys said, no, you can't use the packagist. Yeah, that's right.
And now that I hear it today, I'm like, the packagist, ugh, I don't like that at all anymore.
Right? Chief Packaging Officer said it all. And that was then, we were like, oh, darn, we can't use it. And so literally, I think in one meeting, we figured out, somebody blurted out Chief Packaging Officer.
You know, at the time, I remember like, I was trying so hard to convince myself, like the packagist is like the most interesting man in the world, right? Yeah. Like, you know, like creating the, because packaging is boring. Okay. Like that's the thing we like, so much goes into it, you know, when you're talking about like types of paper and types of inks,
highly technical,
and it gets so granular, you know, the printers that you have to use, and the packaging people, our premise at this time is why we created this asset was they're unsung heroes, and they absolutely are. Like there's no, the moment of truth is like brand on shelf, are you going to buy it or not, right? Like you're walking in the store, you know, and like all the advertising, everything in the world, like if the package isn't visually compelling, if it doesn't feel high quality, you know, there's if it's illegible, right? Like that's the moment of truth when you buy it. Well, in e-commerce has considerably come on between now and then, so it's not exactly the same. But you know, like
that's true.
But anyway, now that I hear it, like I'm like, yeah, that totally, those dots aren't connected in that name. Like Chief Packaging Officer actually was like definitely the way to go.
Well,
so.
And you know, the PS on the so what on that is when the division was sold by Kodak to one of the software companies in the packaging industry, they negotiated to get that website, which was a separate domain, and they've carried it on. And then that company was acquired, and it has continued on. I think it's still, last time I checked, it was still up.
And a couple weeks ago, it's still there.
And it's because it's a lead magnet, and it's a voice for thought leadership. And so anyway, so moving on from the big idea, you know, you work, then you work from a calendar, right? And tell us a little bit about your process about driving the content and then the distribution of that content over social networks.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, this was really like the advent and then golden era of content marketing. You know, I was there when not every company had a blog or a publishing strategy. To, you know, by the end of that tenure, you know, every company was publishing on multiple different formats. You know, written, video, you know, audio, conferences, right? Everybody has their own user conference now, and so you know, it was a really special period for me to have been there for that. And you know, it's, everybody has their own process. You know, we were very I used the word before, but experimental about sort of what works and what doesn't and why, and for each of those different channels. And so, you know, I'll give the example of like producing a blog. You know, we had like infinite frustration in trying to get these thoughts efficiently out of our heads and onto, a compelling blog post that served a purpose. And ultimately what we came up with was, let's just have a conversation like you and I are having right now. And then we'll have it dictated. And then once it has been dictated, then quick have an editor come in and edit it into a post. Mm-hmm. So what was taking 5 weeks and 5 hours took now 60 minutes and 3 or 4 days. Mm-hmm. And so, and it took like 2 years to get there. But then what it did was it broke down all the barriers that prevent you from like creating great content fast, right? Like if you're not a good writer, but you have great thoughts, like then it takes forever. If you're busy, but you have it due, then it takes forever to get it on your calendar. So like creating this little sort of twist in the process, unlock, tons of content for us. Mm-hmm. And, those, dictation services, with Upwork and other, global partner possibilities in the digital era are not expensive anymore. So there was a unique sort of merger of efficiency and global markets and all the stuff that allowed us to accelerate that process. So that was
you need to create media at the speed of business. And I think, one of the things that changed as we think about our marketing department now as like a media company would, right? A news organization has to be able to crank out content quickly, and a TV show didn't. But a marketing department had the annual report, a few brochures a year, right? The website got updated occasionally, and now businesses are needing to operate more like the publisher, which is our whole hypothesis. Another thing I know that you're very adept at and have used a lot of marketing automation and CRM. Tell us a little bit about how you think about how you connect that to your media and how you then use that to create the experience you talked about earlier.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not digital and it's not automated, then to me, it's not scalable. And so, that, it felt the same thing as content marketing. I mean, I feel like I was there for sort of the sort of big transition from niche to, generally implemented technology as far as CRM and marketing automation is concerned. And Keith, right there alongside with me on doing that and being there for that. It's critical. It's mandatory to me. Like you need, Keith, you said before, your content, your business, you need to move the speed of business, and you need to also move at the speed of, your customer, consumers in general. And so, you need like things like automated list segmentation where we can deliver this nuanced message here, message A and message B, different nuance, different person, different persona archetype that we want to talk to, and send that message to them. And so, without marketing automation, without CRM, that's a days-long, arduous process. With dynamic content, with a really strong CRM platform, that could be 15 minutes. And the extension is you can, if you have a really good one, you can have A/B testing and all these different other things added onto it that, allow you to refine your message in real time. And, it's table stakes. The partnership, where I'm the CEO is small, but we, it was one of the first things I implemented when I came over here, was to make sure we had, a great marketing engine. And so, we've, some growing pains, some learning curves. We're a nonprofit, right? So some of the things I learned and tried, were, it took a couple iterations to finalize, but it is, from large to small, you have to have it. You have to be creating media and talking to your customers, and you can't do that or leverage that effectively without those tools that you need, and that's number one on the list. And
they bring you information, right? That's also the way that you get, when they talk about metrics, that's how similar to how Nielsen works for somebody airing a company airing a TV show, this becomes your Nielsen data to tell you what's going on. Tell us how you think about the reporting aspect of automation.
Yeah, I mean, so it's like that's number two, right? Like you have to get it out there to generate data, but like the next and most important thing are the data and insights that your content and marketing machine creates, and you can see it in real time. So you've been talking about topic X and topic Y, and all of a sudden you see there's a huge drop off in traffic to topic X. So you got a little research exercise ahead of you to figure out what that's all about. Could be an SEO problem, could be a mass, unsubscribe problem, right? Or it could be that topic is just not resonating anymore with your audience and you need to abandon it and you need to go back to your editorial calendar and you need to reimagine sort of what you're saying and why and who you're saying it to. And so, for any of that to work, you need an engine and you need data and insights and you need a process to review it and you need a team or automated reporting to get it in front of you. I mean, it's super critical. You must be doing it. And the low to no code platforms, make it easy as well. There's no excuse not to, right? You have like Google Analytics and, Hotjar at one point, right? It was really good. SEMrush, there's a bunch of them out there. But spend a few hours.
You don't have to know how to use them. You have to know how to ask.
You'd be shocked.
I'm sorry, I got caught up. I think we had a little bandwidth issue. You don't have to know how to use them. You have to know how to ask the questions and interpret the data and work with your team to make changes.
Yeah, I mean, a good question is what's working and what's not working, right? So, and you can split that by, what themes are working, what job titles or what seniorities are engaging with our content, what industries, start with those questions. Geographically, like it's super easy. Where's our traffic coming from? If you're a national, or you're a growing regional company, get those reports. I mean, a lot of businesses, I'm sure, do that, but if there's one or two out there that aren't, hopefully if you take away one thing from this podcast, it's go and do that. You would be really shocked. We thought, so with Innovation Week, we thought we were getting like really good engagement. We had not been in Google Analytics. Practice what you preach, man. We had not been in Google Analytics in a while, and running into the event, you just get a million things going on, right? I get it. That's where everybody ends up, and and then like we went in after the event was over, and there's 169 towns and cities in Connecticut. We had traffic from like 158 or 159 of those. And it's like, you're shocked, right? Like, oh, like, wow, I never realized. And then we start looking at national and global traffic and, you realize you have a good national audience and a, burgeoning, global audience. And that really influences your overall business strategy and what you do next year. So, it's, anyway, it's a very long answer to.
No, but I think you really kind of dug into when you're looking at the data that, like the discovery that your audience was not where you expected it to be, then that can inform the way you build your content and change your programming. It gives you insights, right?
Absolutely right.
So working with your staff and giving them skills. You mentioned the low code and no code. And I know this is an area of great interest. Both of us believe in getting the skill sets that employees have up, right? There's the high tech data and analytics crowd, and that where it gets all the attention. But we've done some work this past year on getting employees in your marketing department and your HR department. Like, talk about your thoughts on skills in the workforce in general. I know you do a lot of thinking about this.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is a big part of my life here at the partnership. I mean, well, just looking inwardly, first of all, I mean, I think we've reached a point like in society or in our economy where everyone is a tech-enabled worker at this point. And if you're not, or if you don't think that that label, describes you, even using something like Outlook or something is a way to sort of get started with technology, right? But now I think we're one generation past that, where people are expected to be able to use SaaS products, and if without formal training, like I've used, HubSpot is a common one, Airtable or Monday.com or Teamwork or a project management system, whereas even as recently as 2 or 3 years ago, like you probably, there'd be corporate training on how to do that. And now it's like, just, go and like find your tasks and go and do them. Like your name is on there, and, what different iconography in those systems and what it means, like a little link out or an exclamation point for like urgent, like, like those now I think are common enough where everybody has to do it, but not everybody can do it. And so that's where training and skills-based learning comes in. And everyone learns different ways at different paces. And, it's, I look at some folks, that just jump right in and they just do it. And, some folks that, need a lot of training, and depends on what it is, right? Like if I'm going to use Excel, I need like a tutor. I need like a college professor. I need like online videos, like, and then whereas like, something like Teamwork, I could do that and like just go in there and just do it. So, that's on the internal. Outwardly, people are being displaced at the highest rate ever. There are, for every, high paying, unfilled tech job that's out there, there seem to be 5 people that want it. And they want that high income and that, future-proof job, but they're missing all the time. And so no one has the answer to that yet. It's an American problem for sure. It's probably a global problem. Is sort of, we've never had like within a generation to retrain an entire generation, and that's basically where we're at.
So there's jobs that are open, and there's people who want jobs, but they don't necessarily have the skills to get the jobs that are in demand.
That's absolutely right. And the craziest part is the answer, like if you look at one job as of millions of different jobs, and that job description for that job is changing every 12 to 24 months now, right? Because the platforms that they use, the skill sets, right, they change all the time. And so you need lifelong learning, and it needs to be cheap, and it needs to be accessible, and it needs to rise to meet the student, how the student learns, which for everybody is different. And so, I'm just listing all the problems and challenges, but like there's, we have to tackle a really big issue. And by the way, like just jobs in general are just being eliminated by automation all the time. And, I flat reject the idea that they say like building automation replaces every single job that automation automates, but that's just logically not possible to me. So I think we got to prepare for something a little more, serious, in the next probably 10 or 20 years.
Well, we developed a program this summer that we worked on called Tech Forward, where we had a hypothesis and we put a class out there that taught digital marketing skills using platform certifications. All right, tell us a little bit about Tech Forward and what your goals were with that.
Yeah, I mean, the core hypothesis with Tech Forward was, started with what we mentioned before, where there's open tech jobs and there's people that want them, and there's a mismatch, and it's the skills and the experience, and the idea that you need experience to get a job, you need a job to get experience, right? So that's another fourth sort of factor that's floating out there. So we wanted to create a skills-based learning platform, and the other core idea was there is enough free online training that you can train yourself into a 6-figure job if you were willing to bite off enough for long enough to actually learn it. And so, now it would, like, $50 an hour is about $100,000 a year roughly. And working your way up to $50 an hour, I think you can make that arc in online learning. You could learn how to use Tableau. You could learn how to, develop websites. That's all $50 an hour work. It's possible. So, why aren't people doing that who need to be making a living wage? And it's because it's intimidating, and it's because it sounds too good to be true. They've tried it before and it didn't work, and there's a million reasons why. So our idea was the training is out there, and that's actually not the problem. The problem is it's having a navigator to go alongside you on the journey and help you when you get stuck. And that makes it less intimidating and also keeps you on track. And then there's a second component that you need a counselor, and the counselor will help you ensure that the path that you're on and the activities that you're doing in the learning space are actually guiding you to a real endpoint. Because it doesn't all matter if you get a million certificates, but you can't get a job, then what's the exercise? Mm-hmm. So that's our model. It's a little bit different than, to my knowledge, what anybody else has done. We did a pilot cohort, was very successful. And we're planning sort of the phase 2 rollout on that right now.
Just to emphasize the success, and I think it speaks to the demand, right? That there's the inertia, but if you can help people understand it's not that hard and they're going to be supported, that we put out the word just through our networks, and we got 30 people to apply, and I think it was 7 that completed it, and that was 4 weeks of about 6 hours a week of training and a certification test. And the other thing I learned was how important it is for people to network. I mean, we all love to go network, and small businesses live and die by it. But the ability to combine training with your peers and meeting new people was pretty attractive. And we ended up being able to have 100%, I think it was 100% attendance at the graduation ceremony, which, consisted of hanging out at a brewery.
That's a great way. By the way, if you want to get people to go to something, just do it at a brewery. It's a really good strategy. One that I've employed in other areas as well. But yeah, man, there's, it's just really the beginning for that whole exploration of workforce and skills-based training. It's a problem that's not going away. It's a problem that the feds and state and foundations are, sponsoring programs within, and, someone somewhere will figure it out. And if it's not us, we'll get on that model right away. But, right now we're just trying to do something for this region and deliver a result for this community. So, that's what it boils down to.
Well, I one last point, I've seen him, tell me your experience, but in the work that I've done over the last 5 years, there seems to be, I don't know if it's age-based or is it just experience-based, but younger people tend to have all the tech skills, and the management, middle management, and senior management have the strategy skills, but don't understand fully the tech. And so there's this dichotomy that what we try and do in our consulting is give them a common language without using marketing speak and without using tech speak, but to have a business process around attracting an audience, managing them with technology, and having content that is relevant and delivered at the right time to the right people. So how do you see the difference between having the skills and then being able to manage it like you do?
I mean, it's in a large organization, it should be stratified and like stratified, horizontal, and functional by column. Like, your data analytics team, they have to be great at data analytics software. It doesn't mean that the CFO needs to be able to use that software. They just need to be able to make sure that the business is financially healthy. So like, that's like idea number one. Idea number two is, you said, like, on the tech skill side, is it age based? I don't think it's inherently age based. Like, people can learn things at all points in their life. I think it's a philosophical, like a philosophical thing about, like, when you're in your 20s, 30s, or even 40s today, like, you understand, like, if you want to stay gainfully employed, you're going to be lifelong learning, and that's just the way it is. And there's almost like a comfort in the fatalistic, like, approach, like, another new job, another new platform I got to learn. Like, whoop-de-doo, like that's life, right? Whereas like you have other folks at other points in their careers where, you know, they could bring more probably skills with them across jobs, you know, or across functions. And so, you know, I think that's probably where the learning curve is, I think, or the disparity. But you know, like you always have the example, like, right? It's like, oh, there's technology, and like someone in your family who's older than you like hates it or can't use it. And then like you go on the street and someone who like visually appears to be the same age is like blasting down the street with like, you know, their, you know, like whatever the tech is, and they like love it. Right. So
Right.
I think it's just very individualized, and, you know, and that's why it's difficult. And people aren't like lying that they're struggling with technology. It's like, okay, if you tried to teach one way, like, and it didn't work, like you need another mode of doing it. So yeah, this is one I could like talk about forever, because this is a deep subject, but
And it's great. It's great
yeah.
when you see people adopt those new skills and feel, you know, motivated because they now are able to do something better, faster.
Yeah, I mean, like when Google Glass came out, remember that, right? Like there'd be one person, right, and it'd be like, are you out of your mind? We're in that ridiculous looking thing. They're gonna like hack your brain. Like, I can't believe it. I would never use it, right? And then like there's somebody like walking down the street. They already got it. like same, you know, same age, same whatever.
Right.
So you know, that's tech adoption for you.
Cool. Well, tell us a little bit about what you have going on now. How can people engage with you, and anything else you want to do to just sort of sum up your thoughts today?
Yeah, I mean, it's the partnership is just StamfordPartnership.org. It's easy to find me on LinkedIn. It's just John Winkel. I'm sure it'll be in the description of the podcast. You know, the partnership has a bunch of programs, too many to cover probably here, but generally we focus on entrepreneurship, technology, and workforce. Probably won't surprise you based on the topics here today. And, you know, we're a challenge and opportunity-driven organization. We find big challenges and big opportunities, and we address them, you know, with a coalition behind us. So, you know, and alongside us. And so, you know, that's generally who we are and what we do. We're very focused right now, as I mentioned, on workforce. That's the big one. You know, trying to support the tech scene and the entrepreneurship scene and industries here in the region. It's very near and dear to us. We've got a lot of programs for those industries. So if that's
Tech Hub's one of them that's really interesting, and it's not so much for digital skills workers. It's a little bit different type of company and worker. What are you doing there? Because I know that's pretty new.
Yeah, Tech Hub is you know, a suite of different programs and services to support the tech industry in this region. You know, we have free community co-working. We do that every Thursday morning at 9 o'clock at Half Full's Third Place. And that's just, you can come and be heads down on your laptop, or you can chat up everybody in the room. It's just meant to be a place for, you know, unexpected collisions to happen, and we love that. The second thing, we have Data Analytics Leaders Network, which is for people who are in that profession. You can find that on our website as well. And then we just launched the same type of organization for the cybersecurity industry. And we'll also be launching a new program shortly called Start Lab, and that'll encompass everything that we do to support startups and entrepreneurs. And so, you know, we've got a lot planned and happening and in the works over here.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing your experience and the thought process that you bring to those kinds of programs, and you know, hopefully others who have the opportunity to watch this can gain from that. And if y'all have any questions from what you've seen, feel free to reach out to John at
StamfordPartnership.org,
and or check out Publio if you would like to help get your content strategy energized like John does. So thanks so much. And Jesse, thanks for keeping us on track here and setting everything up. Always a pleasure to work with you.
Thank you.
And thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate it. And whenever finally this is far enough back in history that it no longer matters, let's do another one.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Publio podcast. We've enjoyed having you part of our show. If you like what you hear, please like, share, and comment across social media and below. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel and find us on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and all of those by searching for Publio. If you are interested in taking our course, please check us out. If your business is in need of a content strategy, we've got a program for you. It's a fully interactive course with worksheets and workbooks and videos, and we'd love to have you be part of the class. And you can always join us for office hours or make one-on-one appointments as well. So check us out at Publio, PUBLI.io on the web, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.